Grand Rising, what's going on? What's going on? This is your brother Chief Kalanago Flying Eagle. Hope everybody's doing good. Let me just check Facebook, make sure audio is good. Give me 1 second. This is your brother Chief Kalanago. Yep, audio is good. Audio is good. All right, cool, cool, cool. All righty then. How is everybody doing, man? I know some of y'all are probably still in bed because you've been up all night, and that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. But we are gonna get into a little something here today. I'm gonna share some information with y'all. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. While I give you guys some times to tune into this live. Give me 1 second, please. It's a beautiful Sunday. I mean, the sun may not be out, but trust me, the sun is out somewhere. So it is still a beautiful Sunday. All right. So let's get into that video. But I want to be able to share something with you real quick. All right. So I'm just pretty much giving you guys some times to tune in. Those who missed the live, they will see the replay of that. All right. I hope you are having a beautiful continuation. I don't call this the weekend. I mean, sometimes I use the term, but I don't like to use the term because, when you get into the semantics of the words, you know, weekend, right? It's gonna end. Plus, when on the end you're weak. You know what I mean? Or you're weak, and it ends, and you come back on Monday and do it all over again, right? Monday, which is Monday, right? So anyway, we don't necessarily have to get into the semantics of the word, but I am wishing you a strong continuation. All right, I'll put it that way. All right. Yes, greetings, 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 my sister Valerie. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? All right. So we're gonna get into this little bill right here. Somebody sent me a video in my inbox, and I checked it out, and I've seen that video before. However, it was on someone else's profile. So anyway, like I said, someone sent that video to me, and I just wanted to share it with you. The video I'm about to share with you, of course, I do not own the rights to the sound or the images in the video. However, I'm going to share the video just for educational purposes. I'm also going to share another video with you just to kind of like, bring the message together. Original Castalian, much love to you. All right, positive energy, bouillon, what it is, what it is. All right, great rising, grand rising. Okay, so I'm going to share two videos with you. Once again, I do not have the rights to these videos, so this is fair use. It's only for educational purposes. So let us get right into this. Like I said, for those who are still in bed or they're going to miss the live, it is what it is. They'll catch the replay, right? But we got to keep on moving forward, okay? So thank you for being a part of this build in advance. Let me share the first one with you, and we'll get into that. Let me just go ahead and share that. Share video. Share. Go ahead and share this. Let me go to this one. So this is the first one I'm going to share in regards to, the term African American, Jesse Jackson, whatever the case may be. So we're going to share this first. Okay. Boom. Let's go.
Since 1619 and the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Virginia, standard terminology to describe Africans living in America was colored or Negro. For over 360 years, as Blacks were relegated to second-class citizenship, terms that reinforce oppression have been used to describe them. But as centuries pass, Black people have at times fought to break free from derogatory labels. After the Civil War, several Black people dispensed with the names given them by their former enslavers. This would continue even into the 1900s when, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, Black leaders strongly rebelled against Jim Crow labels. But for mainstream America, a major turning point came in the late 1980s. On this day in 1988, a group of Black leaders, including Reverend Jesse Jackson and representatives from the NAACP, met to discuss the National Black Agenda. It was here that Jackson and his peers catapulted the term African American into the country's lexicon. The term has been used since the 1970s, but never gained widespread acceptance until after this Chicago Convention. Reverend Jackson said, "To be called African Americans has cultural integrity. It puts us in our proper historical context. Every ethnic group in this country has a reference to some land base, some historical cultural base. African Americans have hit that level of cultural maturity."
All right, so
Jackson stated that other races.
I'm gonna stop there. What I'm gonna do is I wanted to play the video without any interruptions. So now I'm gonna go back to the beginning and I'm going to interrupt the video, all right, and kind of like drop the truth and knowledge on that. All right, so let us go back to the beginning and I will be pausing in
Since
between the video.
1619 and
All
the
right, hold
arrival
on
of
for
the
one
first
second.
Since 1619 and the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Virginia, standard terminology to describe Africans living in America was colored or Negro.
Let us stop right here. So since 1619, all right, let's listen to what he's saying. Listen to this again.
Since 1619 and the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in
All right, 1619, in arrival of the first enslaved Africans. Well, that alone in itself, for people who don't know, that is actually false information because in 1619, the first, I think it was about 20 so-called Negroes who came into Virginia. They were not Africans. That's false information. All right. Yes, they were people of color, but they were not Africans. These people were actually indigenous, Scottish, Irish, and a couple of them were actually from the islands. All right. So that alone in itself is false information. Okay, that's false information. So we have to go back far enough to what's supposedly called the beginning, all right, to put all these things in context. Now, I've done many videos on that, but this video that I'm showing you right now is actually leading up to a current video from an elder. All right. So with that being said, putting that in perspective again, the people just back then, all right, we have to know for sure who controlled, the slavery business. It was a business, right? And people are still under the misconception, all right, or the miseducation in terms of information, thinking that the pale man is the one that enslaved our people on this land, or even their own people, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Europe, or whether it's in Asia. People don't realize that the people who controlled the slave trades, I'm talking about slave trades, it wasn't just one, there were many slave trades, okay, but the slave trades, okay, plural, there were people who looked just like us, all right, there were people who looked just like us, the pale man, in other words, people that we call white today. Well, I don't call them white, but anyway, let's not get into the semantics, right? The people that we call white today, let me just keep it as that. These people only came into power within the late the early 1800s, late 1800s, okay, and I'm talking about worldwide, and that's a fact. So once we start accrediting, the pale people for being the slave masters, that is where history, it becomes his story and not the actual story, okay, because it becomes his story. The pale man did not enslave people. All right. The pale man met a system that was already in place, and he became the steward of that system. In other words, he took over the system that was already in place, just like all over America. Okay. We already had paved roads. We had huge buildings. We had cities. We had trade. We were already doing all that. That was already in place. Okay. What the pale man did, the pale man built on that. But the pale man did not create slavery. The pale man wasn't the one that orchestrated the slave trades. No, it was our people enslaving our own people all over the world. Okay? So that is one of the reasons for our fall, because we started enslaving each other. That was one of the reasons. You feel me? But of course, all these things was supposed to happen, and it has a spiritual significance, you know what I mean, or spiritual ramifications behind all those actions. But let me just play this again. I just wanted to kind of pause that every time, you know, he says something, I'm going to debunk that information. All right. And trust me, there's substantial evidence to prove and show everything that I've been saying, because I have tons of videos showing the facts. All right. Let's hear this again.
Since 1619 and the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Virginia, standard terminology to describe Africans living in America was colored or Negro.
All right. So you hear that, colored, colored or Negro. Okay. So that means that in 1619, well, actually it was 1609. It was 1609 when the first set came in, which was about 20 of them, right? And then it took a span of 10 years to really, you know, get that trade, you know, not necessarily perfected, but get the trade in full swing in 1619. Now, with that being said, within that period of 1609 and 1619, the term that was used to call people of color were, let's hear it again. Let's hear it
For
again.
over 360 years, Africans living in America was colored or Negro.
Colored or Negro. Colored or Negro. Before we were called Negroes, we were called colored. All right. Specifically, copper colored. All right. Now you have to go back to the story to break down his story and see where we got lost in the transition of all these different identities. Okay. The transformation of our identities. So, of course, we were indigenous people. Let's go back to the beginning, because there was no beginning, actually, because they met us here. And we've been on this land from time immemorial. But when I say the beginning, I'm talking about the beginning in regards to colonization. Okay. So the colonizers came here, people who looked just like us, okay, but slightly different in a sense in terms of, you know, physiognomy, when we're talking about facial features, and slight difference in complexion, but almost the same, so to speak. Just like when Verrazano came into the Americas and he wrote a letter to the King of France, and he said, well, these people have been here and they are unlike the Ethiopians, meaning that they look like the Ethiopians in terms of complexion with a slight variation, but alike. So they were talking about complexion wise. So they had that copper colored complexion. All right. So before 1619, our people were considered, in terms of description, called colored or Negro. But before we were called Negroes, we were called colored. All right. Colored, the colored race. Okay. The colored race. Now, that colored race, from that point, colored became Negro, because once again, they started comparing us to Negroes from Africa. That's where the term Negro de Terra, and you have Negro de Guinea. So those are two types of different Negroes. Okay. One from Africa called Negro de Guinea, and you have Negro de Terra. Okay. Terra, which is the Negroes from the Americas. All right. That's when that term came in. All right. Boom. Then let us move forward to 1609 and 1619. Our people were not called black, period. Okay. Our people were not called black, period. And the reason why, again, they put all these colored people in one box is because the colonizers and the so-called enslaved people, they all looked alike. So when the colonizers brought their own people, I'm talking about, now let's get into the people you call the Israelites. Okay, when the colonizers brought their people as servants here, those were, some of them were Israelites. They practiced their religion, Judaism, whatever the case may be. Some of them were Moors. But the point I'm making is this: when they came here, they brought them here as servants. And when they started, revolting, it was hard to distinguish between not necessarily the Africans, but the people they called Africans, which is the so-called black people from Europe, okay, When they brought them here, it was hard to distinguish between them and the American, what we call American Aboriginals, because they looked alike. I'm gonna give you an example. All right. Let's just say, for instance, right, you went to 42nd Street and you saw about 500 so-called people of color without them talking or hearing any conversation. You would just assume that they're all black, right? That is the same thing that they did, but because you can't tell the difference. Okay, people with Negroid features all over the world, they have the same build for the most part, almost. Okay, and they have almost the same complexion. Now, some of the complexions vary based on the temperate zone, but for the most part, overall, Negroid people, they favor each other. Why? Because we are of the same stock. When I say the same stock, meaning that from the first manifestation, we all came from the same root people, which is the solar people, the sun people. So we are all solar people. All right. Of course, you have slight variations. All right. I'm saying all that to say is when the colonizers decided, well, you know what? We have to do something about this because we have all these free Negroes or people of color walking around, aka American Indians, and then we have enslaved Negroes, aka the ones that we brought here, not necessarily from Africa. Yes, a few was from directly from Africa, but the majority of them were not. Why? Because the slave trade had already taken place, where they had already taken their own people or some people from Africa and brought to Europe. They brought them to Asia, and they brought them to, if they even enslaved their own people in Africa. So it didn't make sense to go all the way to Africa to bring enslaved people into the Americas on your journey when you already had enslaved people where you were at. I hope that makes sense because they were already enslaving their people. They had a system of subject and master. They already had that in place. Okay, they already had that in place. So when it was time to do the trade or do the work in the Americas, they were coming here anyway. So they just brought their own people with them. And some of these people, a lot of them were actually the original Israelites. Or Israelites are not originally indigenous to America. Okay, they came here, aka the Jacobites. Those are James's people because he made himself the king of the Israelites. So he brought their people, they brought their people here. All right, that's number one. So with that being said, they were called colored to differentiate the American Aboriginals from everybody else. But it started becoming a problem because they started mixing with the Aboriginals and you couldn't tell the difference. All right. So it was just colored. Then they started calling them everybody just Negroes, and then it changed. All right. I'm not going to play the video again. I just wanted to touch that one point. And because of the continuous change of identity, it ended up where in 1988, Jesse Jackson said, well, hey, you know what? We're going to make a public declaration and call all of us African Americans. Now, the term African American did not necessarily first show up in 1989. No, it was attested in 1969 because Jesse Jackson was also part of the Teachers Association. A sponsor of the teachers of the National Teachers Association is the American hold up, give me 1 second. The American Colonization Society. So let me repeat that again because I want to make sure it flows, right? The term African American did not just show up in 1989, in 1988, all right, or in 1989. It became more popular, right? Because Jesse Jackson went on a national convention when he was running for president, all right, and made a declaration, that's who we are. However, the term African American was attested in 1969, okay, and it was created by the American Teachers Society, which of course a sponsor of that was the Colonization Society. So I'm saying all that to say is to show you and prove to you, make the connection that all these different terminologies in regards to identity, it came from the colonization society. They were all colonizers giving our people these different identities or racial or ethnic identities, if I may. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So I'm not going to play the rest of this video. Again, I'm just breaking that down to you. So let's recap. Okay, before 1492, we were here. Facts, guaranteed. We have been here from time immemorial. Okay, we have been here. That's a fact, because every legitimate, voyager or explorer or settler or colonizer, whatever you want to call them, they clearly state in their memoirs or their letters, whatever you want to call it, that the people that they found, they were people of color. That's a fact. All right, that is it is, I mean, irrefutable. Okay, nobody could irrefute that with any other facts. It's a fact. So the people that are sitting on this throne, calling themselves Native Americans, they know that they're not the original Americans. All right, and that's why it was important for Obama to get rid of Indian, the word the word American Indian, and replace it with Native American, because they had to, again, it's a matter of getting us as far away as possible from the identity of calling us American Indians. Get rid of that term, period. Okay, because I'm not sure if it was Andrew Jackson that said, but it was one of them who said that, kill the Indian but save the man. In other words, we are going to make sure that that term Indian disappear from these copper-colored people. But we have to save the man, because we need them. This is their land. They know it best. Their energy is what's going to keep this thing going. Okay, so we are the engine behind everything that moves in the Americas, because that's our land. That's our energy moves it. Whether you call yourself Black, African American, no matter what you call yourself, the bottom line is your energy, okay, is what keeps this moving. So no matter what they call us, we are the one that inherently, okay, we are the ones that's moving this machine. So everything revolves around so-called Black people, predominantly, okay, on this landmass. So yes, American Indian is a misnomer. Even if it is a misnomer, it's a lawful and legal misnomer. Why? Because it is embedded in the Constitution and in treaties. Okay, so yes, it's okay to identify as American Indian, even if it's a misnomer, because it became a general consensus for the people of this landmass. Okay, just want to put those things in perspective. So when so-called Black people are looking for reparations from the pale man will make a very valid statement in court and ask, can you show me and prove to me that I took your people and enslaved your people? You cannot prove it, because guess what? The pale man, well, he wasn't the one who enslaved us. You know what I mean? He came and met the system in place, because why? He was part of the system. He was one of the enslaved. He was one of the servants. But of course, when it comes to them, they're going to use the term servants. When it comes to us, they're going to use the word slave, right? Because, of course, it's about status. But no, they were all slaves. Everybody was slaves, so to speak. Okay? So I'm just saying this to say, when we realize that to be a fact, that the pale man wasn't the one who enslaved American Aborigines. As a matter of fact, one of the first slave trades in the Americas was the American Indian slave trade. It wasn't no transatlantic slave trade. It wasn't the enslavement of pale people. No, it was the enslavement of the American Aborigines. Of course, even that is a misnomer, right? All these things are misnomer, unless you're identifying by the actual name that our ancestors called themselves. Everything is a misnomer. And guess what? They did not, when the truth of the matter is, we did not call ourselves anything, because this is your home. Well, Chief Kalinago, how can you prove that? It's very easy because once you use I'm not cognitive dissonance, but once you use constructive reasoning, and you use your own thought process and you exercise wisdom, it's very easy to attain the truth. Well, and this is how I could prove it. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What does a horse call itself? Can anybody tell me? What does a horse call itself? What does a lion call itself? What does a cow call itself? Can anybody post that in the chat for me, please? Can anybody post that in the chat for me? What does a horse, for instance, a horse that's always been in the Americas, what does it call itself? I mean, I know it's early, man, but I know you guys are sharper than this, so you could drop it in the chat. Anybody. What does a horse call itself? A horse doesn't call itself anything. A horse doesn't call itself anything because it just is what it is. All right, I am that I am. Of course, it doesn't express that verbally, but within its essence, that's what it is. Okay, so with that being said, going back to us, our ancestors, we didn't call ourselves anything. Why? Because why? Because we didn't have anything to differentiate ourselves. We didn't have anything to compare ourselves to. So we were just indigenous people living on our land. Okay, free from any inhabitation. Of course, we had our, our little reefs amongst each other. Yes, I'm not saying that was void. It wasn't. We had our own little beefs, but there was structure, there was respect, there was honor, there were systems in place, governmental systems, there were laws in place. Even when someone got captured, okay, there was laws in place. Even when, certain tribes sojourned, that was part of the culture, moving from one place to the next for some tribes. Okay, and when you happen to, step onto another territory, the chiefs met and they broke bread. They smoked the peace pipe, or if they couldn't get together, then they would just stay away from each other. You know what I'm saying? The point I'm making is we had structures in place and we did not call ourselves anything. So no matter what name we call ourselves today, at some point they're all misnomers. And that's a fact. So going back to colonization and giving the pale man or pale people credit to put them on this pedestal, you see, all that was done through imagery, through media, through film. That is what happened. And they had to promote that, to ingrain in the people's mind, to give pale people the status of, well, you know what? I have always been the master and you were always the slave. But that wasn't always the case because the masters actually looked like us. You did. And the deal was they couldn't enslave us because that was the deal, because we broke bread with you. And the truth of the matter is a lot of our ancestors, partook in slavery. They owned slaves. They owned pale slaves. They owned Negro slaves. Okay, they owned Asian slaves. That's a fact. Because slavery was just a business. Slavery had nothing to do with the color of one's skin. It became that eventually, okay? When did that happen? It became that when the pale man took over the game. It became something of skin, complexion, because he had to separate himself completely from the slavery system and make himself the master. Because everybody else were considered colored. Even Asians were considered colored. Italians were considered colored. Japanese, which of course include Asians, Chinese, Koreans, etc. They were all considered colored. I hope this is all making sense thus far. So when Jesse Jackson in 1988 came on the scene and made that term more popular, at the same time in 1988, and guess where Jesse Jackson did the speech? Can anybody tell me where he made that speech? Anybody in 1988, tell me where he made that huge speech in front of millions of people on television. He did that in Atlanta. Do you think it's a coincidence? Hmm? Do you think he did them putting him in Atlanta to make that speech? Do you think it was a coincidence? No, it wasn't a coincidence. Now, can I blame Jesse Jackson? In a sense, yes, and in a sense, no. I'll tell you why yes. Yes, because regardless of what it is, if you're going to stand on foundation and truth, then regardless of the consequences or the persecutions that you're going to face, when you're a true man or a woman of righteousness, you don't care about what happens to you. Okay? Because you're going to stand and die for the truth. But I'm going to say no because, all right, for African Americans and so-called Black or Negroes, that identity was also assigned to Jesse Jackson and his ancestors. It wasn't chosen by them. Okay? It was a system that was given to us. And yes, a lot of our ancestors fought against it, but Jesse Jackson embraced it. Because of fear, I don't know. Maybe because he wanted to get popular votes, I don't know. Whatever the case was, I don't know what was going through his mind. All right? But the truth of the matter is, our people were not given many options to choose from, especially from the first census in 1790. We were not given many options to choose from. And then the options that were there, even if we wanted to pick American Indian, they still made it a problem. Nah, you're not going to pick that. We know you're the Indian, but you can't pick American Indian, so choose something else. You feel me? But Jesse Jackson's family, especially his great-great-grandfather, was a pure-blood Cherokee. You feel me? He was a pure-bred Cherokee. So how all of a sudden Jesse Jackson just became African-American? So because they say we looked black, and of course I don't know how we look black because none of us complexion look black at all. They just put everybody in that category and start calling them black. Okay, and that became the determination in regards to ethnic, identity or racial identity for us. All right. So I hope this makes sense. Now, the next video I'm going to share with you is an elder speaking nothing but truth. And once again, I have no rights to the, to this video. This is strictly for educational purposes. And this is something I've been talking about for many, many years now. But the elder is, is stepping up and talking about it. And I'm going to share this this video with you. So give me 1 second while I pull that video up. And like I said, someone sent this to me in my inbox on Facebook, and I felt it necessary to share it with y'all. Maybe that might ignite, something, within somebody who's going to see this video and realize that we have to truly, really, really, really step up. Okay. So give me 1 second. Let me just share this with you. And then we'll recap on everything. Okay. All right, let's hit play.
And it said, women are looking at the men differently now. They're asking, hey, can you fish? Can you hunt? Can you fight? Because it's that way now. And my son said to me when I was talking to him about it, he said, the bad thing about it is these young boys with who have been feminized don't even see that this was a plan. Because I told him when I was growing up, if this happened when I was 10, 12, 13 years old, I wouldn't be as worried because every man in my neighborhood had a fucking rifle. Everyone. That's when this system was afraid of us, because they knew we weren't going to be the only ones to die if you came down our street in a tank. We have been weakened, people. We have been denatured. Because if we want fish, we got to go to them to get it. If we want clean water, we have to go to them to get it. And who can tell how clean that is? If we want anything, we have to go to them to get it. We have got to change. We have got to change. And I know that you guys get upset with me when I talk to you about this, but this is on us. This is our land. The ADOS people don't want to accept that this is our land, but those of us who know that we are Aboriginal and that we are Indian, we better come together. It's not about how much money we can get for what we talk about. It's not about Cash App. Because Cash App ain't going to save us. We going to have to save us. I never thought that I would be the type of person to bear my feelings the way I'm doing it right now. I never thought I would. But what about our babies and our grandchildren? What about them? Because even if we survive this, they won't. 10 years from now, they got another plan. This ain't the only plan. I guess I'm really saying more than I planned to say, and I apologize for that. But we better take our lives into our own hands. We better start now. Even if it means just going to your neighbor next door. I told my son, I said, if this happened when I was young, I wouldn't be worried about it. Because if I got hungry, I didn't have to go to the store. I sat on my auntie's roof and ate cherries. And when we got tired of that, we ate berries. And when we got tired of that, we ate whatever they picked out of the yard. Or the bread that they made. We grew up on beans. We grew up on good food until they told us we were poor. We weren't poor. I didn't live in the ghetto. Our streets were clean. We believe everything they tell us about us. And then we turn to them to help, ask them to fix us so that we can be what they want us to be, so that we can look like what they want us to look like in their eyes. Let me tell you something. We better learn. We better get it. Another thing I said to my son, and then I'm going to get off. I'm not gonna bore you with too much more of this, but I'm really concerned about the fact that we don't even know what real water tastes like. At least my children don't, and I bet yours don't either. Having foreigners on our land is a very serious issue. And let me tell you why. Some time ago, I went camping. And I was telling this white lady, I said, I will never forget this time when there was water running down from the rocks. We went to that little stream, cupped our hands, and we drank the water. And she said to me, it didn't make you sick? No, it didn't. And it wasn't supposed to. You know why? Because my DNA is from this land mass. So when I go to another country and I'm dealing with the DNA of that land mass, the water will make me sick. You got to understand that your DNA is in this land. You are copper, so is this land. People, just try and get it. Do some research. Go back into your family history and start finding out where you came from. Because if you are from Africa, then you need to be on that landmass. But if you're from here, you need to work to figure out how we can get our land back, how we can come together as a people. Because if we don't, we're done for. We are. And I know that other people don't say it out loud like this because they're scared. Well, let me tell you something. As brave as I usually am, I'm scared. I'm scared for us because we got to get it. We've got to see it. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care anything about that. It's about the bloodline. We're the same bloodline. We got to stop hating each other. We got to love each other enough to go to our next door neighbor and say, hey, man, I'm your next door neighbor. We got to come together. We got to do like we used to do. We got to help each other mow our lawns. We got to start planting food in our yards. We need to get trees that bear fruit in our yard. So if you need something from me, I have it for you. Because I'm going to tell you, that's who we really are. And most of us don't even know, as Aboriginal people, we had the first World Trade Center. That's where they get it from. And it was a world trade, not a world buy. We bartered. We traded. Whatever we needed, we got from another country, and they did the same for us. And we've lost that. We've lost that care for each other and that taking care of each other. It's always about the money. What can you give me if I help you? We better get out of that because that is not who we are as a people. So I've ranted, and forgive me for that. But I love you guys. I love my people. I really love my people. And I can't help that.
All righty. So, this was, very, very, very powerful. You know what I mean? And I've been talking about this for quite some time, and I tell people that's why when people call me or reach out to me, whether they call me, whether they send me an email inbox and they ask me for help, I don't charge them. I just do it because that is who we are as a people. I'll tell you something that happened recently. I had gotten a ticket, right? And I knew how to deal with the situation, but sometimes I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was something I had to go through or whether I wanted to test, I wanted to test this brother out, whatever the case may be. So anyway, I'm not going to call any names, but I reached out to him and I said, hey, bro, you know what? I'm going through a situation, I need a little consultation, whatever the case may be. He said, all right, cool, chief. The brother tell me, hey, you know what? $250 for the for 40-minute consultation. All right, boom. I cash up him the $250, right? And we got on a Zoom. So I said, well, whatever we, slight introduction, blah, 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 blah. I said, listen, I appreciate what you're doing for the people, whatever the case may be. I said, I got this ticket and, this is what, I did. And then when I was done telling him what I did, he was like, oh man, that was good. That was good, man. Yeah, you did that. That was that. Yeah, that's what it is. So he didn't really tell me what he would have done different. So he told me something about another process, right? And then he told me he was going to send me a copy of the video because he's going to record the Zoom. Guess what? It's been 5 weeks. Now, mind you, I dealt with the ticket. The ticket disappeared. The point is, up to now, it's been 5 weeks. I haven't gotten a copy of the video, but I paid $250. Not even an email to say, hey, well, chief, how did things go? And that is the mentality of a lot of people who look like us, especially people that's on this social media right now. They want to charge you for everything. Just a little advice. Not necessarily advice, but some point you in the right direction is $250. This and that. And that's what I know within my heart. That makes me different from a lot of people because people hit me up and I give them the information that I have. But why am I charging you for that? It's not like as if you're utilizing my services. You're just asking a couple of questions. You see what I'm saying? You don't need to pay me $250 for a consultation just for a little bit of, well, hey, chief, you know what? What do you think I could do? Come on, man. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with these Negroes. They talk about them being indigenous and all this thing, and they this and they that, and they for the people. Before they open up their mouth, they want you to they want to send cash apps. You did. Now I'm not gonna be on here to be hypocritical. I'm not gonna do that. When I used to do my videos and I used to teach a lot on YouTube, Facebook, I had my cash up. And I don't feel guilty for that because that's all I did. That was my job. Teaching was my job, and it still is. So when because I would spend weeks and months going to the Library of Congress, and it would cost me. You see what I'm saying? Paying for hotel, it would cost me. So when I give the information, of course, it's a reciprocal, relationship. I gave, so I expected the people to give back. But then when I realized that, you know what, Chief, it doesn't matter how much you give of yourself. You know what I'm saying? People are so selfish. They will not in return donate or give back onto you. I say, you know what, I'm going to just take a break from all this. And it feel like you are begging them when I'm the one giving you the information. So I stopped doing videos. I took a long break. And then after, the spirit was like, okay, you know what? That's your passion. Continue teaching. And take the cash app down. I took it down. And I took it down. And guess what? Ever since, the universe been providing for me. So I don't want nobody to say, well, they made me or they gave me this to make me. No. You feel me? But there's nothing wrong in supporting. I'm not against that. But I took down mine because I didn't want to feel like I'm begging anybody for anything. Maybe it's my foolish pride. You feel me? But we got to get away from this. Every time somebody need a little consult, you know what I'm saying? If you have a community, that's what community stands for. Community. Okay, the ability to commune in unity. That's what community is. You feel me? But we don't have communities. We have neighborhoods. That's why we are so divided. I am just a neighbor. You see what I'm saying? I am not in communion with you. So people don't realize how powerful words are. They don't realize that. Okay? The Jews have a community. You feel me? Because they are united and they commune. So they look out for each other. We have neighborhoods. And the funny thing is, they have communities in our neighborhoods, and we don't have a community. You see what I'm saying? We're supposed to have people where we could reach out to, because that's what we did. We would go to the council and the council would advise. They didn't charge for that. They didn't charge for that. I know what pure water tastes like because I was born on the islands. I know what it tastes like. I know what it feels like to, my mom putting her head out the window and said, hey, Miss Josephine, you know what? Let me get a pound of sugar. I'll give it back to you next week. I know vice versa, when somebody would knock on my mom's window and say, hey, you know what, Miss So-and-so, I had, let me get, whether it's some flour, I will give you that next week. I know what that feels like because that's how I was raised. So I came from a different cloth. I know what it feels like to go in the backyard and pick my fruits. I know what it feels like to go under the cellar and lift up a chicken and take the eggs. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like where my uncle would knock on the door 6 a.m. and bring a warm bottle of milk straight from the cow or the goat. Most people don't know what pure water tastes like. Water from the earth, they don't know what it tastes like because we have lost it, like the elder said. And everything that we need, we depend on them. The three most essential things that we need: food, shelter, and clothing. And we depend on everybody else, okay, that's not from this landmass to give it to us. The three basic essentials: food, clothing, and shelter. We get it from colonizers, settlers, or immigrants. And then when we make an attempt to create our own, people don't want to support. They look at it as you trying to get rich. So you see, all that's part of the mental disease. And people don't realize that they are suffering from that disease. And I'm not talking about a disease, I'm talking about a dis-ease, meaning that your chakras are not balanced. That's why I tell you, every video I do, I could go back and point it and pull something out of it, because everything is done with purpose. Because I allow the higher self to move me when I teach. We have a right to self-identify. Self-determination is key. In 1988, when Jesse Jackson made that term popular, African American, that same year, they gave us House Resolution 331, where the United States have an obligation to deal with indigenous people from a government to government basis. Okay? It clearly stated that they got the Constitution from us. But that wasn't popularized. But yet still his great-great-grandfather was a full-blood Cherokee. So if your great-great-grandfather was a full-blood Cherokee, how is that you're only African American? So we have to make an attempt to stop individualizing ourselves. You know, too many people, oh, well, you know, you're not from the mainland, so you're not an American Aboriginal, like the United States is America. The United States is not America. It's like going to Africa and telling somebody from Ghana, you know, they go to Nigeria and somebody in Nigeria telling them, oh, well, you're not African because you're from Ghana. And it just shows you how stupid, and yes, I said it, stupid and ignorant that some people are. Because you think the United States is America. But it's the hate that we have for each other. And it stems from a place that you don't even comprehend. You see what I'm saying? Because you're so lost, thinking that you're found because you say certain things or you post certain things. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Because you don't know the true story. You know his story, but you don't know the true story of this land. And it's really sad, man. It's really sad. And of course, the emasculation of our men. They're thinking that it's a trend, it's a fashion. No, I could be who I want to be. Nah, man. All that stuff it is planned. You know, you see what I'm saying? It is warfare. People don't get that. Now, is all lost? No, all is not lost. You know, because there have to be balance. And what do I mean by that is a lot of people are lost, and there are people such as ourselves, all right, that's always going to stand on the principles of truth. You feel me? So if we could just get back to those three main things: food, clothing, and shelter, and make an attempt to provide that for ourselves, then I think that's a great way to start. You feel me? It's a great way to start. Because for one, again, we have a right to self-identify. So if you still want to call yourself American Indian, there's nothing wrong with that, because guess what? That, like I said, that's in the Constitution. We are the American Indians because we are the people that when this so-called other Negroes came here, they called us American Indians to differentiate us from the other Negroes that they were bringing here. You feel me? They didn't call people here American Indians because they were Mongoloids. No. They call us American Indians to differentiate, once again, from the Negroes that they were bringing here, because it was other Negroes, so to speak. All right? And they were still calling us Indians and calling them those different names. All right? Like I said, I have all that stuff I'm going to bring out and show you guys. Even in George Washington's war, Okay, you would think that it was the pale people that stood up and fought. No, it was people of color. And I'm talking about, I have, exactly where they are from, their country they are from, I have all that. And their description in terms of color, it tells you brown, black, tawny, or whatever the case may be. And over 90% of the people that fought in George Washington War were colored people. In fact, over 96%. But they were not all from Africa. They were people from Scotland, Ireland, Germany. I'm talking about different ethnic groups, but not necessarily different countries, so to speak. But they were all people of color. They were all people of color. So when you hear the pale man talking about our founding fathers, no. Well, in a sense, yes, because they were subjects of these so-called black people. So they were their fathers. But these people are not our founding fathers. You might think they are pale. George Washington wasn't a pale man. Abraham Lincoln wasn't a pale man. Even in Abraham Lincoln's own mouth, he called himself a black man in terms of description. And he married a so-called black woman who already had 2 children when they got married. I mean, I'm talking about George Washington, pardon me, because I don't want to get it mixed up. But like I said, I'm articulating all that in the information I'm about to bring to y'all in the form of a book. So when you know the true story, you are able to, again, maneuver yourself, and you will be able to put a case together, all right, and word it in a formal and a more lawful way. Because just basically telling the pale man, hey, you know what, you enslaved us, we want reparations, you will never get it, because guess what? He wasn't the one who brought so-called slaves that came from across the seas here. No. And because you were enslaved doesn't mean that you came from across the waters. And that's what our people are tricked with. Now, they have this popular music now that they call Afro beats. Once again, giving it to Africa. Afro had nothing to do with Africa. Afro was always about indigenous Americans. So what are y'all people talking about, man? And people think I ain't got nothing against Africans, bro. I just don't like the fact that everything that we do, it's associated with Africa, and we ain't Africans. Africa got their own culture. How come ain't nobody talking about, the Aboriginals from Europe? How come ain't nobody talking about them? Because you think the original Europeans are the pale people. They're not. How come ain't nobody talking about the Aboriginals of Asia? The Mongoloid-looking Asians you see nowadays, they're not the original Asians. How come ain't nobody talking about them? Somebody said, race name that's still on your birth certificate, does it matter? Certificate matter? I mean, whatever you identify as, whether it's on your birth certificate or not, it matters. Because that's what they're going to classify you as. So anything that you call yourself matters, whether it's on your birth certificate or whether you are making a public declaration. It matters. And here's the funny thing, okay? Here's the real funny thing. And I would rather say, here's the irony in all this. People who call themselves African Americans, who truly think they're African, guess what? They have more American Indian blood in them than these Mongoloids. I'm going to repeat that again. And I'll tell you why I could make that statement with such, power. okay, and vindication. I'll tell you why. I'm going to repeat it one more time, though. The people who think they're actually Africans, all right, these so-called black people and so-called African Americans, they have more American Indian blood in them than these Mongoloids. Let me tell you why. Because back then, all right, it was the people who came from, whether it was Africa, whether it was Europe, I'm talking about the original people, so-called people of color, they were the ones mixing the most with our ancestors. These Mongoloids were just put in place, okay? And a lot of these Mongoloids, the most of them, the way they became Indian is by mixing with our people. That's how they were able to have certain percentages of that Indian blood. And if you go back to that conversation I had with the Cherokee Nation, you will hear it. You will hear the gentleman say it in his own mouth. It did not come from my mouth. He said it. He said specifically, quote and unquote. He said this. Okay. He said, if I were to take a hot comb and I ran it through my grandmother's hair, she would look just like one of the black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So my question to you is, what does your hair have to do with the color of your skin? So he's actually telling me that his grandmother or great-grandmother was a Negro woman. But then he keep using the word black. You see, that's where they're tricking our people with the word black. Oh, now you are black, you're black, you're black. I never got on the conversation and told the man I was black. Well, black people are not natives. You're absolutely correct. Black people are not native to anywhere on earth. Period. Not even Africa. Because it's a semblance of something. It's not real. That's why they are being governed by the color of law. So they have to keep pushing the black. The black, they have to put you in that box. Even Facebook, told me that I was violating the community standard to say something about being black people are not gonna get reparations because they don't exist. They restricted my platform for 25 days. But yet still everybody could get on Facebook and call a woman a B word and an H word and the N word, and they're gonna kill this and kill that. That's not violating their standards at all. So when you really look at it, they're all part of the grand scheme of keeping indigenous Americans dead in law. Because they don't want us to know. They don't want us to identify. They don't want us to make that declaration. And they don't want others to teach others about who they truly are. Because being black is a cash cow. You feel me? It's what drives the machine. It is a slave that drives the machine. And the moment you stop calling yourself black, then you are no longer a slave. See, y'all don't get this. All you have to do is just say it. I'm not black. And automatically, spiritually, you took yourself out of a slavery box, of a realm of slavery, because that's what it is. And that's where it starts, in the spiritual realm, meaning that the mental realm. And once you start proclaiming that, doors will open up, your eyes will open up. It's all right. It's all right. I think if I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, Tra or Miss Woods, okay, or Sister Wood. But the point is, let them get mad at you. It's all right. Let them get mad. Because you are liberating yourself. What we have to realize is this. Nobody's coming to save us. You have to save your own self. You have to save your own self. The days or the era when we were looking for that Messiah or that Savior is done. Okay? That was the age of Pisces when Jesus had to resurrect. You feel me? And I'm talking about allegorically speaking, because the man wasn't a real man. But I'm talking about it's an era. It's an age. So now we are in the age where people have to be their own Messiah. You feel me? That's why you will have many Messiahs, not just one. That age is over. The age came and gone. You are your Messiah. You are your Savior. You are your own God. You are your own judge. And it makes no difference. Okay? Your story doesn't make any difference or differentiates you from the story of the allegorical Jesus. And I have to say allegorical because it was not real. Okay? It was a metaphor. You are Jesus, and you have the potential of becoming the Christ. All Christ means is anointed one. So when you realize that you have to stop going on your knees and start praying to people and all these different gods to help you, then you will really start falling into the place that you're supposed to be in, where you are stepping into your godhood. And just like the allegorical Jesus, he had to step away from his family to go teach because they were his biggest critic. So don't be surprised that the people around you are not going to believe you. It's all right. And that's why I tell people this journey is one that you may have to walk alone, but it doesn't mean that you have to be lonely. But for those of us who are walking it alone, why do we find it so hard to commune? Why do we find it so hard to communicate? Why do we find it so hard to support and build each other? That is because you still have remnants of that slavery mentality in you. You have not fully liberated yourself yet. Come on, man. It's going to take work, my brothers and sisters. It's going to take work. It's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take work. And like the elder said, listen, man, these people, and when I say these people, the system, because people think that it's the pale man running the system. No, it's a conglomerate of different ethnic groups, because it's about the have and the have-nots right now. It ain't got nothing to do with the color of skin, because the Black Caucus is in place. You feel me? Y'all better recognize, man, and realize what has transpired and what will continue to transpire if we don't make a change. And I'm gonna say this one more time. I'm not gonna say it again, at least not on this live. The people who call themselves Black and African Americans, they have more indigenous American blood in them than these Mongoloids. These Mongoloids were just put in place, a placeholder to fill a void. If you're going to get rid of the Indians, then who's going to take their place? So they had to give you the movies, the cowboy and Indians, show you that the Indians look different from you. You feel me? Growing up looking at cowboy and Indian movies, I always supported the Indians. Why? Why is that? Of course, put in place on paper. And all this, they tell you, oh, well, you know what? The Indians was wiped out by smallpox. No, because guess what? And I have proof as well. Because the so-called nobles of Europe, the Black kings and queens, so to speak, and their subjects were also so-called Black people. They were the ones who had the smallpox. Okay? Even at some point, King James had the pox. Okay? King Ferdinand had the pox. And they brought that stuff here. And our people were not used to that. So it was their people dying out from the pox. Because they already, they came here with it. So when they started drinking our water, eating our food, they started dying. Because they were not indigenous to the land. But because they look alike, and in terms of description, they tell you they're Indian people who got wiped out. No, it was their people. You dig? Oh, I apologize. Wood. I apologize, man. My fault. Okay, no disrespect. Again, when you don't know, you don't know, right? I should have asked in the first place. So, yeah, I apologize, my brother. Let me tell you something, right? Like I said before, okay? Like I've said this before. On Tuesdays or Wednesdays, it depends on, my availability, right? I teach, a group of guys, again, like, people say they're thugs and they're gang bangers, whatever the case may be, whatever, right? They in gangs, and it's okay. I don't care because I look at them as my brothers, right? And some of them, they were born here, meaning that born in the United States, and some of them, their parents are actually from the United States. And a lot of them, their parents, even if they were born here, their parents are actually from the islands. And it amazes me how we all look alike. Like you cannot differentiate between us. You see what I'm saying? Even when I go to the basketball court, I watch and I just look at my brothers and I'd be like, wow, if only they knew. Because we only have a slight difference in looks, whether you are light skin, brown skin, dark skin, whatever you want to call it. Not realizing that we are the children of that one mother, the American continent. That's our mama. That's our big mama. That's our motherland. You feel me? That's our motherland. And she's in pain because she's feeling the hurt. And of course, there's a little bit of joy in that sorrow because a lot of us are talking about it. A lot of us are living it. And she's feeling that energy. But there needs to be more of the unification, more of the standing together, more of the brotherhood, more of the sisterhood. And like the elder said, it ain't got nothing to do with religion. Even if I talk about, I speak the truth on religion, I'm not going to abandon a brother or a sister who's still a Christian or who still practice Islam or who still think they have a God outside of themselves. It's okay. It ain't got nothing to do with that. We got to start somewhere. So I hope all this made sense, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually out of town right now, but I should be back in Brooklyn probably. I know I have that class on Tuesday or Wednesday, but it depends on, what if I'm done, to handling my business right now. But I should be back in Brooklyn maybe on Wednesday or Thursday for the latest, but with that being said, man, I've given my all, you know what I mean? And I continue to give my all, you know what I mean? And I will not stop. I will not stop because, when you have tapped into the truth, to go back on anything else, would literally, you know, take away from, your spot in that book of life. You see what I'm saying? And I cannot go back to anything. And the truth of the matter is I never left. I've always been talking about this. Of course, in certain videos, certain conversations, I use black because that's what, people are used to. But I'm talking about does the true essence of knowing who we are as a people. You know what I mean? Because like I always say, in high school, they didn't teach me that I was from Africa. They told us that we were Amerindians. Again, the two words that come together, Amerindians, American Indian. Like I've always known this. You feel me? Always known this. It's only when I came to the United States, for the first time in my life, physically, I heard people calling themselves black, and it messed me up. It messed me up, like because in the islands we did not call ourselves black. You did? We didn't call ourselves that. So that kind of threw me off. And when I used to pass and my elders, I would never pass an elder without saying good morning or good afternoon. Yes, I used to say good morning, or good afternoon. I used to say good morning until, I got into the true etymology and energy of words and knowing that, morning is when somebody dies. So, but anyway, that's neither here or there. The point is, I always respected my elders my elders, and I still do. And people would literally stop me. Like even when I pass and I say good afternoon, good evening, good morning, elders would actually stop me and say, hey, excuse me, you're not from here, right? I said, no, I wasn't born here. I was born in the islands. They say, oh, that makes sense. I was like, what you mean? They was like, because you said good afternoon, you said good morning. And I'm like, nah, I'm certainly sure people here in the United States, I mean, they say that. I know they say it down south, but the point I'm making is, I'm saying all that to say is, I grew up with that culture, what I mean, of knowing what it feels like to taste natural water, natural spring water. Okay. Dominica, which is the island that I was born on, Dominica is in North America, and Dominica is considered to be the nature island of the Caribbean. The nature island of the Caribbean. Dominica has 365 rivers, a river for each day of the year. It has the most rivers in the world, right? Such a small island. Okay. And Dominica was one of the few islands in the entire Americas where the people were not really enslaved, because they fought so hard that the French and the English together came together and said, nah, man, we got to give these people back their lands because they're just too ferocious. And they made a treaty and gave back the land to the people. So when people talking all this stuff, man, I just listen, and I just, because of the hatred, the animosity, and the jealousy, they don't know. Because they don't know, they hate you for knowing. You feel me? They hate you for knowing who you are. So they want to isolate you and take away who you are because of their own insecurities. But I don't let things like that bother me, because I know I was sent for a purpose. I was sent with a purpose, and I was sent for a reason. You feel me? And nobody could take that away from me. Nobody. Because my ancestors sent me for this. They came to me in visions. And I'm talking about, I felt their touch. How many people could actually say that? So I'm not just talking about a vision where I saw something. I'm talking about, like, literally, I felt the energy of that touch tap me on my shoulder, put a left hand on my shoulder. I'm having a vision of whether it's a vision or a dream. And one of my elders came to me and put his hand on my shoulder. I'm talking about, in regalia and everything. And it's like I was looking at an older version of my father, in a sense. Gave me my name in two different visions. So nobody could take that away, no matter what anybody says. So I'm able to walk and speak and stand with confidence, because I know my ancestors are watching over me. But we got work to do, man. We got work to do. We got work to do. All right. Happy belated solar return to your dad, Woods. All right, for sure. I appreciate that, Brother Little. So remember, it's not the big things sometimes that make the most impact. Sometimes it's the small gestures, the little things that you do in your life is what creates the big impact. Always remember that. So you may not be able to do a whole lot, but do a little and be consistent with that. I promise you, you will make a bigger impact than people who are just waiting to do that one big impact, right? We have a saying in the islands, right? Small axe cut big tree. You see what I'm saying? Like, you'll see a little axe. Is the consistency of that cutting with that small axe that's going to cut that tree faster than a big axe. And that's facts. So get on Facebook, get on YouTube, wherever you at, and teach the knowledge. You don't have to know it all. If all you could tell people is, hey, listen, man, we're not black. This is who we truly are. If that's all you know, then that's a good start. And then lead them to another source of information or another platform where they could get more. I'm never afraid to share people's stuff. I'm never afraid to promote people. I'm never afraid of that because I'm not afraid of the competition. Why? Because to me, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. But people always think that for them to share what you have is you are their competition. No, I don't want to be your competition. I want to add to what's going on. I'm an addition, not a competition. But again, that's just my nature. And I'm not here to say I'm better than anybody else. No, I'm just telling you how I am. Because the only person that could make that change is me. I cannot wait for anybody else to do anything to impact my life. No, I have to make my own changes within myself. So the things I want of people first, I always make sure it's within me. And I do unto others as I would have them do unto me. And that's just what it is. Okay? That's what it is. So I'm going to conclude this video, man. It's almost an hour and a half, but I hope y'all got the message in this video. Just to kind of recap and summarize, started with the whole aspect of thinking that our story our story, but not his story, right? Our story began in 1609. Okay, that's what we were taught. You should know that's only his story. That is not our story. That's why when you look at the word mystery is almost saying my story. You see, you have to realize that your story is a mystery. Okay, your story, our story, is not his story. Yes, within his story, we will find our story. Okay, but let us look at the word real quick. Okay, and let's just separate that a little, right? Give me 1 second, and then I'll get out of here. All right, give me 1 second. So you could kind of visualize what I'm saying. Big up Zazie, big up Sister Denise, big up, respect every time, yeah? Hold on for 1 second. Let me see. Let me just go ahead and share this real quick and show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, if you look at the word mystery, right? Mystery. If I were to go between the M and the S, and I would create a space, what would that sound like? It would say my story, my story. You see what I'm saying? So when I say certain things, I want you to know the logic behind when I use certain words. So mystery is actually our story. Our story is a mystery. It's my story, opposed to his story, history. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. So don't get mystery, my story, confused with his story. Although in his story, you could find some of our truth. So I am a mystorian, okay? Not a historian. Yes, I am a historian too because I know his story, but I am a mystorian. I hope that makes sense. And the only way to be a historian is to know your story. If you could only speak of his story, then you are a historian. So most of these so-called scholars, they are historians. Okay? That's why they could only tell you what he told them. Oh, you see what I'm saying? That's what they could tell you. They are masters of that. They got their PhDs and they got their master's degree because they are historians. Okay? But when it comes to my story, they are ignorant. And those are the people that's teaching the system, the historians, and that's done intentionally. There are no historians telling our stories in the schools. You feel me? All right. So whether you want to call yourself American Indian, American Aborigines, copper colored, we're still one people, man. We're still one people. And it's not to say that we have to have a hatred for Africans or the Europeans or the Asians. And I'm talking about the original ones. I'm not now. We don't have any. Me personally, I have no animosity to any one of them. You feel me? I have no animosity to any one of them. But with that being said, I have to make sure that I am respected for who I am. Okay? That's it. And I always make this statement. Why is that? Every other ethnic group that comes here, whether they come as a colonizer, a settler looking for opportunities, whatever the case may be, right? They always tend to be given the opportunity to live the American dream. But yet still, the original Americans, we keep living a nightmare. Don't you think that is it a coincidence? No, it is not well, in a sense, it's coincidence, right? Because why? When you look at the word coincidence, all it means is that with incidents, because co means with. Like if you have a co-pilot, that means that pilot is with you. So therefore, coincidence means to be with incidents. It's done intentionally. Okay, so nothing is truly a coincidence. It is done with incidents. And we have to get away. I mean, that's just me though. We have to get away from calling ourselves that nigger word. Okay? It is a curse. I don't care what anybody say. You cannot turn it into a term of endearment. Just like a woman calling herself a bitch. I don't care what you say. A bitch is a female dog. So if you want to be that, that's fine. If you want to be a bad one at that too, then be a bad female dog. But I don't want a bad female dog. All right. So anyway, like I said, we have a lot of work to do. Like Zazie said, each one teach one. And, I cannot impose anything on anybody. All I do in my journey is just plant seeds. That's all I'm doing, like I'm doing right now. I am planting seeds. I have a ministry. The name of my ministry is the United Anion Empowerment Ministry. And that is part of my ministry. Every video that I do, whether it's on a Sunday, a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Friday, whatever the case may be, anytime I do a video, it's presented by my ministry. So that's part of my ministerial work. So that's what I do. Okay. So I'm just here planting seeds. I cannot enforce anything. Okay. I cannot force you to do anything. But however, I can give you the information. And what I always ask is you do your own due diligence. Always flow with what your spirit tells you, your higher self, whether it's contrary to what I talk about or not. That's on you because everybody's truth is different. All right. Everybody's truth is different. You dig. Okay. So just know this. And I'm glad, K Do Blue, that you mentioned American Native. That word or that term in its sense, it's how would I put it? It has a double meaning because back in the days, when I say back in the days, I'm talking about in the earlier use of the word native, a native would have been considered an original. But because they changed it, okay, native just means to be born. So everybody who's born in the United States is a native. That's why Native Americans could say, that's why once again, Obama had to go back, all right, and get rid of the word Indian, all right, and replace it with native. So instead of American Indian, they had to put it on the books, all right, that it's Native American because it is politically correct, all right. American Indian, calling natives American Indian wasn't politically correct. Why? Because they were not the people that were called American Indians. All right. So you could see the transition of how they didn't mind calling themselves American Indians because they were still in the transition of filling that void, taking the place of the real American Indians. So once all that was accomplished, to put the stamp on that, they had to bring a president who looked like us, Obama, to put that in place, to finally kill on paper American Indian, and then create, or not necessarily create, but validate the Native Americans. So everything, once again, is not a coincidence. It is a coincidence because it was done with the intention of making sure that happened. Okay. So I wouldn't call myself a Native American, but that's just me though, knowing truly what it truly stands for. Okay. So that's just my take on that. All right. So again, I hope that makes sense. Okay. So that's what it means. All right. All right. Lineage. I'm about to get out of here. Let me just give everybody a little shout out that came on this live. But like I said, I know it's early. You could have been anywhere, but you're here. So let me give a little shout out to each and every one of you. Let's see who we have here. And let me get out of here. Okay. As always, Sister Valerie, I appreciate you being on here. Thank you so much. Original Costallion, pardon me. I'm just sounding out without even reading, properly. I apologize for that. Greetings to you as well. Who else do we have? Beyond Smith, much respect and gratitude. Diana Richardson, thank you once again for being here. Always appreciate y'all. My sister Arlen Davis, Grand Rising, one love to you. We have Chief Akichita. I hope I pronounced that properly. All right, one love lineage. All right, much respect. I appreciate each and every one of you, man, for just, always standing for who we are. All right. Who else do we have? Ebony Rose, much respect and gratitude. Who else we have? Of course, big up Zazie every time. Bliss, you already know. We don't say bless, we say bliss. You feel me? All right. So we have K Dubleur. All right. Or Dubleu, whichever way you want to pronounce that. But blur sounds like French to me. So that's why I said it that way. So if I mispronounce that, I apologize as well. T Quarters, Grand Rising lineage, what it is. All right. Who else we got? Of course, my brother, Brother Little, Brian Little. Much love, brother. All right. And I apologize, Trey Wood, whichever, I'm not sure how you pronounced, the first, but, I apologize for thinking that you were a sister, my brother. All right. Thank you for being a part of the build. Who else do we have? Cowboy Moose, much respect and gratitude. Thank you for being here. All right. Who else do we have? All right. I think I gave everybody almost got everybody, right? Okay. Yes, my sister Denise, much love and much respect, to you. Once again, check out her page. The photographs, she does photography and the work is absolutely stunning, amazing. So please check out her page. And Brother Vincent Stewart, all right, much respect and gratitude for being here as well. Thank you. And I think we got everybody. One love, all right. And guys, hey, listen, man, don't forget, if you have a business, you have a product, a service, whatever the case may be, always know that I'm willing to, give you an opportunity to come on here, to, just tell people about your business. That's what I do. You ain't got to pay me for that. You know what I mean? It's fine. You know, again, we are all we have. And if we don't look out for each other, who's going to look out for us, right? So, you know, hey, send me an inbox. Hey, Chief, you know what? I have a product, I have a service. You know, I would like to, talk about it. You know, I mean, let people know what I have, where to find me. Definitely, that's fine. Do that. All right. And you know, if enough people hit me up, I will choose different days where 2 or 3 people could come on and talk about their business, talk about their services, talk about their products. All right, we'll do that. And like I said, you ain't got to pay me for that, man. That's what it is. All right. We have to support each other. So I appreciate that, everyone, for wishing me the best wishes in my travels. Definitely. I mean, I'm still in New York, but I'm actually upstate right now. So I'll be traveling back, to Mount Vernon, and then I'm coming back to Brooklyn. So I appreciate, love that, blissful thoughts and energy and positive energy, with each and every one of you. May the Great Spirit continue to guide you and protect you, and may your higher self teach you how to be more like your higher self and open up your mind to truth. All right. And that, within your journey, that you're always protected. Always know that you are not the flesh, but the flesh, is what holds the true you, your higher self, and your higher self is king. Your higher self is queen. All right. And do not allow your flesh to be the master of your higher self. All right. Always remember that you are the one that's in charge. You are your own savior. You are your own God. You are your own judge. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You feel me? So continue to put that positive energy out there. And yes, we will make that change. We will make that impact. You feel me? All right. But first, it starts with you. You cannot tell people do something and you're not doing it. You did. You cannot try to clean somebody else's window, but once they clean your window, your house is messy, it's dirty, it look like a pit stop. You can't do that. You have to make sure that you're on point. You know what I mean? So every day work on yourself. All right. Anything that you do for 21 days become a habit. Anything you do for 90 days become a lifestyle. So you decide what type of lifestyle you want to live. So practice every 21 days, get into a habit of changing your life. Once that 90-day hit, that becomes a lifestyle. It's really hard to go back. You feel me? So that's why most programs are 90-day programs, because it takes 90 days to create a lifestyle. You feel me? So work on yourself, man, and know that ye are God's. And with that being said, have yourself a blissful one. I love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.